Should you just start rolling?
No, no.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so sorry. This is so... Sorry, now we begin again. Hello, Zaya. किधर क्या है?
We were talking about this dialectic between the organic and the technological, and my favorite scene in the film is when this guy hands this big, bulky television set in a carton to Natha, and he doesn't know what to do with it, and it's too heavy for him, and it's too unwieldy. And there's a scene later on when you see it kept inside his house next to the Lal Bahadur, and you can see that it's a colossal misfit. Now, for me, that was really interesting because in many ways, the media descending onto Peepli was almost for me like certain aspects of urban life descending upon a rural setup, because Natha's life is shown to be sedate. He's slipping on shit when he's laughing. There is this organic connection, to me it seemed, that which was being made between Natha and this thing. On the other hand, the minute the media comes in, you can see that there's handheld television. There's this kind of dizzying fragmentariness that you usually associate with urban life. Did you work with these kind of divisions?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are actually three factors. There's the village, there is the media, and all the reporters and all the external things that you have coming in. And also, there is a third factor, which is an invisible factor, which is very, very important to this film, is the factor of us, the unit, who actually landed in that village with all our equipment, which is huge lights and trucks and cables and cameras. So that invisible part, I think, became very, very important to us. And I think that the consciousness that with which the unit worked of this is there in the film very much. I don't think the film would have been the same had, I don't know, it has seeped in the sense that the entire unit eventually started to get about us being the media, which we are trying to portray in the film.
Right.
And that remained with us for the 65 days that we were shooting. And gradually over a period of time, for instance, it was the first day we were shooting, it was the best, quick thing, camera is ready, you cut branches and you stick it out, as all camera light people do. Huge big branches of trees, and I was shocked out of my mind. I couldn't believe that this was happening. Or nailing trees because you had to stick something or whatever. And of course at that time I threw a tantrum. I said, we can't be shooting this way, we cannot be cutting down trees to shoot. I mean, can't shoot, don't shoot it. Just. And gradually that sense also I think came with the unit, the fact that we can't be doing this. We cannot be interrupting what is a daily life, what is their daily life, just because we want to make a movie.
Right.
We have descended here. It's their space. We are in that space. So it cannot be that we are the deciders. It has to be them. They have to allow us to do certain things. If they do not allow it, we cannot do it. So I think that thing that developed between us, that invisible link, also remains very, very important for the film. Plus, as you were saying, yes, the more obvious one, which is the media, and yes, it's there. And especially in the last scene, actually the scene's not so much as when they're coming in, but scene when they're leaving is very there, starkly. I felt that when their presence is not at all there, that last car is left, and then you come to the shot of the ground, of the people, of the children, of the mela being taken off. That is, for me, the image which is what we are talking about, I think.
Right. How do you think your own negotiation with the script and the film as it turned out has changed over time? Which is that, I think you hinted towards this right now, that filmmaking is essentially very often also a violent process. That you, as a person who lives in an urban setup, has had certain exposures and has had certain has had access to certain things in life, go to a rural setup, shoot something, capture a portion of life, and come back. Do you think were there moments about that over time now have made you unsure?
Yeah, most definitely. Because see, you can only decide on a right and wrong at the moment that you have to decide it on. Because in retrospect, what you make achieve, your experience, or on the whole, when you look back at it, it may be a different right or wrong. But you can only do what at that moment you feel is right. But that need not necessarily sort of be the right thing. And of course, you're conscious of that because
Like?
it is a process which is, but like what would I have done differently in the village? Yeah. See, the thing is that we tried very hard. We tried very, very hard to get the basic things right. For instance, we had these rules that if there is a cart and and the roads are very, as you know, we had to build a road to get into the village first of all. There was no road to it. So all these cars that were coming in with the unit members, all of us, there were also carts. So every time there's a cart and there's a car, the cart will have the right of way, and the cars will have to go back or stop or whatever. There is really, really patla pagdandis on which the cars were moving. So, for instance, if the animals are coming, now there would be times when in the morning and there would be a point in the evening when the animals would be returning home or going away from home. And that makes a lot of noise because they're wearing those little bells and things like that. So you can't shoot at that time. But they were always, they had priority. So they were allowed, you can't stop them. And small things like, you know, for instance, like this Bakri ka bacha, you know, who has been left back home, and there is this herd of Bakris coming back. Now the bacha is desperate to get to his mother, and we've stopped that herd there. And there is this Bakri ka bacha who's just jumping wildly. He just wants to go to his mother. No, you can't stop that. You just have to let this go. So these were rules. We had no cutting of trees, no branching cut, no leaves should not be broken, flowers not be broken, all of that regular. We tried to do all of that. We tried to, I don't think at that point we could have done anything differently. But maybe, you know, maybe something more could have been done. I don't know. We did develop a very good relationship with them, and we still do have it. So it's not as if it's a broken thing or any complaints were later sort of came out. The only complaints that came out were basically कि हमको काम नहीं दिया, which is fine. Yeah, things like पैसा नहीं मिला वो गाने का, which also happened. Actually, I have a very, very nice memories of the village, and all of us do, the unit. A lot of us were very ignorant of how a rural setup would be. A lot of the unit were first-time workers, first of all. Most of us were first-timers. And for them, it was also a first time to be in a rural setup. So it was, of course, initially it was one shock, and this whole exotica thing about Indian rural side, and, you know, looking at their clothes, and then that gradually died down very soon. And then you do get in, then start to make friends, or at least acquaintances, in terms of meeting people and having a conversation. They engage with you when you engage with them. And that process gradually began.
One last question about the film, which is that Hori Mahato's character really intrigued me. And in one way, he's at the opposite end of a spectrum, especially in comparison with Natha, because he has a will to live, he has a will to persevere and go on. Yet he dies, and that almost nods towards this clear state genocide which is happening because of malnutrition, because of, and that for me worked the most. So, but I could also see that Hori Mahato's character also had a very certain emotional register outside of the politics. Is that just talk me through how you negotiated with that character?
See, he has an emotional register also not within the film but also from us, because he is a character which comes from various different, he comes from Godan, of course. you know, that's very clear. That's a very clear reference to Premchand. It's the character, the main character in Godan is also Hori Mahato. He's called Hori Mahato. His wife is called Dhanya, and therefore the Dhanya. His wife, of course, it's not that literal, but and he also dies. And so the idea of taking, when Godan was written, from there to 2010, which is when the film is releasing, this continuous, without break, a Hori Mahato who was there like this then and who's like this now. So that sense is very much there. Also, it is a character that sort of speaks of our politics. It speaks of our literary sort of
References.
And
Quotations.
yeah, absolutely that. Also, Hori Mahato is a character who, the fact that he is on this bicycle and he has this, he's carrying mitti from where he's digging from his land to a place where they build bricks. Now, I know if you're aware that wherever there are these eent ka bhattas everywhere now in rural setups, they spoil around a radius of about, I think, 6 to 8 kilometers. They affect the crop, they affect all the trees, they affect all the fruit growing trees. So, for instance, the mangoes that are grown around an area where a bhatta is will always have problems. They never,
Right.
they get these black spots.
Right.
So that, and it is to do with everybody loves a good drought actually. So a
Right.
bit of his character also comes from him.
Okay. Right. You were also telling me about off camera. You were just telling me about what happened with the actor playing the character.
Yeah, he's no longer alive. He was called Ellen Alvia, and he developed tuberculosis. And right after the film was shot, and in fact, just before or after the film was released, we got to know that he has passed away. So clearly, his life has
Echoes the.
of Hori Mahato in reality as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
What are your earliest memories of cinema?
Ek duje ke liye.
How old were you then?
I think I was 4 or 5. That's when my mother, I, and my sister, we went out for a thing. And my only concern was that the movie that we are going to, I was not very interested in the idea of a hall or any of that. My major interest was that the movie we should watch should be Ek Duje Ke Liye. So I kept checking with them throughout
Why?
the movie.
Why?
I have no idea why I was so fascinated with it, but maybe Chitrahar, I didn't know what it was. But clearly I kept irritating my sister by kept asking her that, you know, is this Ek Duje Ke Liye? And she eventually had to slap me.
One film that has moved you the most?
Moved me the most. Many films have moved me a lot. I mean,
Do you cry? Are you like a...
yeah, man. Don't even ask my husband. He keeps, because I have now decided that I can't watch movies with him.
Like, which was the last movie that you cried while watching?
Don't.
That's okay. We've had Tigmanshu Dhulia said that he cried while watching Three Idiots.
No, what was the last movie I saw that I cried on? I've seen, like, I don't want to even take their names.
We're talking about like emotional.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I cried absolute. I've recently started re-watching the old DD serial called Udan. So I've decided that I'll watch it for 5 days straight out. Every night I sit down and I watch one whole disc.
Okay.
That is what I've been crying about.
But a
Crying my eyes
movie
out.
that you really...
It's shot on 35. Huh?
That's okay. Like,
Movie. I have not cried in any of the recent movies that I have seen, which has left me very, very disappointed because I really want to. I'm such a ready audience to cry, and you can't make me cry. Come on.
Okay. But one film that has moved you, that's had a really strong impact on you?
Many films. I can, for instance, Gandhi. One of my earliest films that I remember going with my parents. I was taken to see them. I cried and I bawled. I was really young and it was embarrassing for my parents because they had to keep me quiet. Pathar Panchali. There's, of course. Junoon.
Oh.
Of course, Mr. Benegal has some very touching images.
Hmm.
Um, there are many films, you know. I am now starting to, where should I begin to talk about it? Because how you get moved by what is a like a, you know, women on the verge of a nervous breakdown. That for me is a very special film.
I know some films really teach you something about humanity. You know, like for me, it was I wasn't emotionally moved as much, but I know that it taught me something about a fundamental human fabric. Is Dogville, Von Trier's?
Yes.
Because it suddenly like told me something about human character.
And,
so
and his earlier films, the first one, in fact, Dancing in the Dark, that has that's very heavy. You cry buckets.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that kind of film is there, then that's different. But there is recently we've been watching Goda, and we saw this film called A Woman Is a Woman, which I find extremely well done. Extremely well done film. It's something else, and it has so many layers, and it says it so well. It's a very very important film, I felt.
One film that you remember for its images?
From like childhood or like ever? Whenever?
Whenever.
Was it Dancing in the Dark? I'm not sure of the name of the film, but it's
Dancing in the Dark.
yeah.
Last Von Trier, no?
One thing. Yeah.
And one film that you remember for its sound?
8 Women.
The French film. Okay, one Indian film that you remember for its images and sound?
For sound, it has to be Om Darbadar. Has to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you off camera some stuff, because the last guy I interviewed for this was Kamal Swaroop, and he had a couple of things to say about Peepli life. I'll just tell you. Anusha, the one distinct impression that I got after watching Peepli Life is that, firstly, well, clearly, as you yourself cried yourself hoarse saying, that the film is clearly not about farmer suicides. But the film for me was in dialogue with a very endemic and specific aspect of the contemporary moment that we live in, which is the rise of the television media event. Now, given that you have worked in a news setup, and you have clearly witnessed from very close quarters this transformation in the very idea of liveness and the very idea of witnessing and experiencing a media event, how conscious were you of weaving that into the script?
Completely consciously it was done. I mean, one was talking, there could not have been a media without the media event, because the media event has been going on for now a while. So it's not, I don't think it's as recent as 2 years or 5 years or whatever. It's been going on. The only difference is the degrees to which we are accepting it. So, you know, we are now all right to see a news channel propagating what should have been which should have been something which was neutral, something which would have been a news item, no longer is a news item. It is that the news people, the anchors, the reporters have themselves become involved in the story, so they take sides. And that's been going on for a while. And in the film, yes, I mean, that is very, very consciously done. It's not something that has come out of the situation at all. The situation would have become this, and the plot line always had that. So script level, we always thought that this is going to be the Mela. In fact, that's what the script calls it, the Mela.
No, but I meant this in the, even philosophically and politically, this transformation has clear fallouts, right? My favorite 2 stories are, I read somewhere that Rajdeep Sardesai had said that if the era of live TV was there during Babri Masjid would not have happened, you know. How do you think this transformation fits in, and where does cinema fit into these interstices?
See, I don't at all agree with Rajdeep, because although Babri Masjid may have not, according to him, whatever, but the Gujarat riots happened while there was live television. So if they would not have happened if only the reason why things can be stopped is live television, then Gujarat riots should have been stopped.
Right.
But they were not.
Right.
Despite the fact that Rajdeep did fantastic work at that time, and there was his reports were very good, but I don't think it made the world sit up and say no, it should not be happening. It didn't. So I don't quite know what he means by that. Yes, it has developed to an extent, but I'd like to ask him. It's one thing to have Anna Hazare and a complete all channel support towards a particular segment who's saying a particular thing.
Right.
That's one thing. Another is a state-sponsored program. Yeah. So the events are different. The value is different. You can make somebody a star, but I don't think you can stop this.
But one thing that I think Peepli also does effectively is that like it taps into one particular aspect of this kind of liveness, which is that the television event seems to increasingly become more and more tactile. It's almost like you can sit in your drawing rooms and you can almost touch and live, and that event becomes almost this capsule that you can constantly access and be a part of, and that becomes a part of your life. And I say this especially because very often I felt that there was this kind of visceral, corporeal quality to the way Natha is being shot. There's zoom into the forehead, there's this thing. So
no, it did. It was quite a lot of how the visuals are in the film are quite planned, in the sense that we knew we were actually we were working with our hands tied behind our backs, really, in the sense that neither of us had any experience in filmmaking. We didn't know how camera, of course you knew a little bit, but you didn't know how a film camera worked. You didn't know a lot of technicals. Over and above that, we had chosen to go with a cast which was absolutely not in the filmy zone. So they were not familiar with the camera. They were professional theatre actors, a lot of them. Some of them were not even professional actors, and so they didn't know anything about the camera. They didn't know anything about how your face should be, where should it be to get the light, for instance. Now we knew that right from day one, that we are going into it, but we are going against all odds, and therefore it was very necessary that we should be very clear as to what we are trying to say through our images. And therefore the images, it was very, very clear that the camera will remain a spectator. It will not be the emotional core of the film, in the sense that it will not be going in for close-ups. It will be, it will not add emotion as a layer to the image at all. So that was some decision that we taken long time ago, while the script was being written. The fact that we don't want to have a stylized shoot. The fact that we want to keep the movement minimal. So the camera will move only and only if the actor moves. And therefore the actors were given a lot more importance on the set than the technicals of it, for various reasons. And also because the narrative of the film required that, absolutely, I felt. So if you notice that the camera is constantly moving with the actor and not the other way around. There are hardly any close-ups. We are trying to do away with the emotion completely. And as you had said earlier, the idea of this urban, thing. See, it's a bit like, film is a very modern and chemical process. And we were trying to make a film which is very organic. Now these are contradictions, because you can't, you're using a technology which is not organic to try and achieve a result which is organic. And you keep trying to put stops. For instance, we decided that we will never do a DI on this film. We eventually had to do it for various reasons, but that was one of the reasons, to get more and more organic. However, constantly you know that the medium through which you're trying to be organic is not organic at all. So though that contradiction has been there, and we knew about it. So it was, all those decisions therefore had been we filtered through these contradictions that we were sort of facing, and decisions were taken, I think, a lot before the shoot happened. Of course, many decisions happened because you don't have sunlight, or you don't have whatever. On the set, it becomes a different thing altogether. But the basic things were already decided, and you had to always remind yourself on the set that, okay, no, fine, this may look very nice, but this is not what you're trying to do. So you have to come back. You have to come back, and that is something that we were very sure of. That the original idea, you have to keep coming back to that.
What for you is the most painful part of filmmaking, and what was the most painful part of making this particular film?
I think I hate dealing with people. I am not a very people-friendly person. It doesn't come very naturally to me to speak to a large number of people.
So maybe the marketing bit of it?
Oh, I hate marketing. I hate marketing. Yes, I hate it. Completely. That's something, because also you're suddenly, what happens is that you're dealing with, and you do develop a relationship over a period of time. You worked with these set of people. Gradually you start building a relationship. You become friends over a year or year and a half that you worked with them, and suddenly there comes a point when the film is ready, and then you are the most irrelevant person, and the unit is the most irrelevant set of people for this film. The film no longer find your idea or your perception of the film of any importance. So there is an immediate cut. The moment the film is ready, there is a cut, and you're being, okay, goodbye, and then the marketing takes over, which is a lot of times, at least especially for this film, I felt that they didn't even understand the film a lot of times. So it was that much more painful, because you had to even
communicate to
you can try and communicate only if somebody is willing to engage with you, or try and even listen to what you are trying to say.
Given the fact that you were from a world completely alien to that of Bombay, to the industry, do you think you've come out scarred from the experience? How has the experience been?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've come out scarred. I don't know how it has changed me as a person. It definitely has, but I would not know. I think it will be a question that I would be able to answer maybe a few years down the line.
But are you raring to go back and make another movie in a similar kind of setup? With a similar
Not
kind
a
of
similar
industry
kind
crew?
of setup. But yes, within the industry, yeah, I mean, because all movies are made within the industry, I think a lot of things are happening now. A lot of churning is going on. So I'm hoping that, you know, something new comes of it. But even if it doesn't, I think that now I know what, you know, earlier that the things that you were dependent on others for, information, which is not coming your way, or correct information, I don't need that anymore.
Right.
I don't need you to tell me, give me a list of people who can shoot, for instance. When we went from Delhi, we were like blank. We had to set up a team. Now, normally what happens in Bombay is that everybody has their own sort of networks and contacts and people who you meet socially and all of that. So we didn't have that at all. So we had to start from scratch and build a team. And if you don't know very many people, then you end up and something that was, I think that's a boon, and we were very fortunate to go through that, because we've ended up making a team of all newcomers who now, even today, I know that they're some of my best friends there, and they have they're really, you know, that these relationships are for life, at least for a very long time. So these relationships are not going to get over because a film has got over.
No, I'm curious about why you didn't shoot on video.
Oh no, we want, see again, that whole, you have to go back to the organic and non-organic, and when we can't shoot on video because we didn't want to do DI. We wanted to shoot only on film and raw film image. Also, you know, it was a bit of an emotional thing for Mahmood and me, because we decided that, you know, maybe this is the only time, maybe this is our only film, and we really want to have faces on celluloid, faces that you would never see on celluloid. Those faces should just for posterity, just for, what should I say? Well, very, very emotional decision, yes, but I think I still I'll stand by that, and I'm very happy that we managed to do that. We have Indian faces on celluloid,
Right.
the real Indian faces. Yeah.
Right. Okay. One last question. Which direction do you think you're moving in right now?
In what sense?
In terms of all kind of creative expression, in terms of the films that you'll make, in terms of the ideas you think you want to move towards and explore?
See, but I'm familiar with, and I know the fact that art and artists usually they replicate themselves. I mean, there's an idea and there is a person to the artist, and then those ideas, the first few ideas, are the ones which will be the thread through which the rest of the artwork, the rest of the life would be sort of dealing with. Having said that, I don't know if Peepli Live would always remain the area of interest. It is very much still the area of interest. I do find those stories far more moving than anything else. So maybe, I don't know, I can't really say. But
Are you reading anything currently which is influencing you? Or watching anything? What? No?
I'm watching, as I told you, Udan.
Okay.
And I am
Oh, Godar also you said.
Goda also. So.
And
I'm reading a lot of Amitav Ghosh.
I saw a whole hoard of Ghosh novels there.
I've finished with the River of Smoke, but I've decided to go back to a book that I've already read before, The Sea of Poppies.
Oh, okay. So do you think something will come out of there? Okay.
Difficult to say.
Okay. ठीक है. Thanks. That should be it.